how many times do we take offense and then we miss all the help that we're getting along the way? She doesn't have a negative vibration. Her purity of heart is so great. She just straight went to, wow, what is the righteous way to solve this puzzle? Every bully is going to get bullied by life somehow, some way.
Like war on terror, war on drug.
If I project everything I hate out there and then have a war on it and fix it out there, it'll fix. And no war has ever ended war.
That reminder to have a friendly attitude towards life's challenges because they're not personal. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fiona's Aditya's podcast. And I'm joined once more with Nadamayi. Welcome, Nadamayi.
Hi, Fiona. Nice to be here.
Nadamayi and I love the potential for healing that is here in the telling of stories, that our vibration is being lifted by understanding the ecliptic at this new frequency. And today we're having a look at Mitra Aditya, the third Aditya. And if you're applying it the way that we've been learning it with Ernst from astrology-videos.com, then the third Aditya is an air sign. And it is the case that we have lots and lots of mythological stories here with Mitra, that there's so many things to cover that I don't think Nadamayi and I can attempt to cover it all. But we might touch on some of those stories that have the most meaning or the most application, or where we feel pulled to. So maybe beginning with the deity itself, Mitra. One of the ways that we can think about Mitra Aditya is through the love that it rules, the love of friendship. So this might be something to keep in mind, and it's a nice way to link Data, Arima, and Mitra. Data is one party bearing another party that cannot bear itself yet. Then Arima is two equal partners helping each other in a long-term companionship. And the third Aditya has this love of friendship. But in some ways, what I connect more to about the deity for Mitra is this goodwill that we have towards other humans. So that's the friendship side of it, that we walk around in our day-to-day life with a sense of goodwill to everyone that's around, and therefore we help them out, someone else helps us out. We keep our eyes open. Mitra has this association with unclosing eyes. Keep our eyes open to those around us who might be in need, just like they keep their eyes open on us in case we fall or stumble or are in need. So it's the goodwill, that's the friendship part. I get the love of friendship. But another thing that's really important to me about Mitra is the goodwill that we have towards life and its problems, that the journey itself, the obstacles that come along. For me personally, I think that's one of the main things that I took about Mitra, was that reminder to have a friendly attitude towards life's challenges because they're not personal. Maybe on a karmic level they are personal, and that's a discussion for another day. But taking them personally only makes the overcoming of that obstacle even harder. And we have so many stories in Mitra, in the retinue, of the beings overcoming quite difficult scenarios. So for me, it's the love of friendship, but me personally, maybe it's even more important, that deity that guides me to have a friendly attitude with life.
The friendship that we have with the life principle, the principle of life that shows up in all these different ways. Some are inanimate, some are animate, some are indirect, some are direct. So all these ways that it shows up, I like to view the Adityas, the entire ecliptic, as a game board. Life is a game, play it. I'm repeating myself, but the universe is a university. The only degree is love. Here's the game board. Solve for each piece of the pie in life cycles, in these spirals as we go round and around, because you'll never be on the same Aditya twice. You'll be in the same place, but at a different point in time. And so if we're playing this game of life and we're winning, what we're going to see so beautifully illustrated through Mitra is that we're friends, whether life shows up as a collaborator or a challenger. And that we have the same attitude. And you'll see in all of these myths this interesting through line where whenever strategies involving negative vibrations, in particular, envy and jealousy, but any form of insecurity and hostility, all of those iterations, whenever those show up as our strategy, bad side effects, really bad side effects, and we actually don't truly solve the game. We get short-term symptom relief, which leads to just kicking the can, and we have to solve it again and again. And in fact, it'll show up in our lives, coming to us in the challenge form of something being insecure and hostile towards us. But if we meet all this insecurity and hostility, which are linked, we're insecure, so we become hostile. If we meet them all with this equanimity, this purity of heart, which interestingly, the women in this are the ones that show up and do that. Atri, the rishi, does also. But the stories of the women in this Aditya retinue show up with the purity, and they're the ones that pass the test so well with something that is genius and in the moment. And so it's demonstrating that when we are free of these negative vibrations, that we have access to this more enlightened mind, these higher laws just show up and flow through us. And sometimes the problems are solved without us actually doing anything. They come through us, or they'll come through us as an idea. And then this power to accomplish that idea will also follow. So the power of the pure heart.
Exactly. Because one of the symbols, last time I was with the handshake for Arima, this time I'm with the Vaj for Mitra, this magical tool. In the center is an empty sphere that has captured the lightning, Indra's a lightning bolt. And then coming out from this sphere, 5 spokes that join together at either end of this sphere. And I love this symbol for Mitra because it speaks a little bit about the ecliptic. If we look at the South Indian chart of keeping Mercury here at the throat chakra, that is exactly the place to solve the problem here in Mercury, who is open-minded and full of options, not to go too much into the intellect and be detached and not solve problems or look down on people from this high view up here, and not to go too far down into our chakras and feel the emotions and feel the suffering of others, and getting further down as well into the other chakras. That when we want to maintain a friendly relationship with life, we want to be able to solve problems. There's a real skill to staying at this Mercury center of the Vaj location. And
let me just insert the words. There's a benevolent detachment, a compassionate, benevolent detachment, not worried, identifying with the suffering of myself or others, not doing spiritual bypass and say, I have spiritually matured past that. I don't need, I can minimize and dismiss it. It's like integrated, but not enmeshed.
Yeah, not clingy.
I think that's really lovely. And that image of capturing lightning in a bottle, it is very much a way to describe the Eastern view of the body. It's an instrument through which consciousness works. So it's a kind of step down transformer, right? Like the giant electricity, if we're going to call it electricity, just to help us with a metaphor, the giant all-pervasive electricity that is the manifest life principle that makes creation has to go through different step-down transformers. And this is how it shows up in this body and intellect and koshas and so on. That's a lovely way of saying it, that when we're holding it in the right place, then it is, I love the symbol of the cross here. We are balanced on all our dimensions, XYZ axes here. It's lovely.
Yes. And maybe just to add to that vision before we jump down is that Mercury being associated with this deity, this Aditya, Mercury is often close to the sun in everybody's charts. It doesn't get very far away from.
Yeah.
Delighted by the sun, and it is inspired by the sun, and then takes that inspiration of the sun and finds a way to make that happen. And that's why the capturing of the lightning is like the Indra or the sun there is that guide for how to solve the problem, and then staying in this awareness of equanimity here. Because as we go through the stories, Indra really gets in here and messes with this, assigning them various tasks.
And sometimes he's playing both sides. And I don't know if you noticed that, but I was like, he helped both sides on this one. He was an instigator here, and he helped the hero there. And
yeah, and that's what Mercury has on its side as well. It can be benefic, it can be malefic, it can be male, it can be female. So it's really responding to what you're saying. So as we jump down to the Rishi, we have several really good stories about the Rishi, about how he helped the sun and the moon, and that he's got this process of logic.
Navakiki, the process of inquiry, logic, and reasoning.
So these are associated with the Rishi, but we might not jump into that because perhaps a personal favorite story for both of us, maybe Nadamayi is going to tell this story, is the Rishi's wife and her great challenge and the way that she miraculously overcame it. Anasūyā.
Name that literally means freedom from envy and spite.
Yeah.
So her purity was renowned. And the Trimurti, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, said, oh yeah, really? Let's just see. And so they created a scenario that was, from its designed to make her fail. There was a lose-lose scenario. Now, I like to think everybody who's a Trekkie fan, remember Captain Kirk's famous scenario to pass officer training school. They go into the hologram thingy and they fight this battle, and the battle is literally designed so officers fail. That's what this is, but the ancient Hindu mythological version of it. She's bathing in the river. She's bathing in the river, and they show up while she's naked and ask for hospitality. Okay, she has to be challenged. First of all, it's quite threatening for 3 men to walk up while you're naked. And so it's a violation of safety. It's a violation of courtesy, custom, proper decorum. But this is also the Trimurti. And there's also the demand on her part to be a hostess. And that is her character on the line too. So her character is being threatened morally, and hospitality, her ability to give hospitality to guests. Those are both high bars, and they've found a way to make her fail on both counts. But what does she do? She does not become angry because they've showed up to offend her, and she does not become spiteful or envious or any of those things. She doesn't have a negative vibration. Her purity of heart is so great, she just straight went to, wow, what is the righteous way to solve this puzzle? And the power of her purity was so great that this spiritual uplift came through her that transformed the Trimurti, all three of them, into babies. And it is completely appropriate for a woman to be naked in front of a baby and offer it hospitality. So just like Captain Kirk in the other one, he said this one is unwinnable. I'll just change the whole ground and the whole frame. She changed the whole frame. She says, now y'all are babies and I'm a mother, and I have completely aced this test on all levels through the spiritual power that can flow through purity.
It really illustrates this friendly attitude to life's obstacles, like not taking offense to something.
Mm-hmm.
And just working with whatever you've got. So even like you said, if it's set up as a fail situation, I'm still not going to take offense at that. Yeah. So it's inspiring. I find the story really inspiring.
Yeah. Well, me too.
Yeah. And she gets boons from each of them. So
big boons. They are commensurate with the challenge. And that is that she and her husband, Atri, now have all three of them as their children. They have Trimurti incarnate through them. The Brahma Murti came through as Soma.
Yeah.
The Vishnu Murti came through as Dattatreya. And Durvasa was Shiva's expression. And so these three great incarnations in that lineage, remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. And there's so much more that we could say about that because those are three really powerful children as well.
They do a lot. They show up.
A lot, exactly. And the moon is one of the main planets that's going to cause us to take offense. It's Ayana Bala, if it's on the wrong side of the ecliptic, is when people stick in the mud and take offense about something rather than, whoa, was not expecting that. Okay, let's adapt, which is the moon is famous for being adaptable, but it's in the wrong half of the ecliptic. So there's lots that we could say about the children, and there's more that we could say about Rishi Atri because he has a great story of the 100 doors, but we're going to leave that to intrigue you. Go read your manual or go follow Ernst and check out the videos where all these stories are. Because, as you said, let's try to outline the retinue. This is one.
Yeah, we're going to get stuck. Let's move on.
Rishi Atri and his wonderful wife. The Rakshasa is the half-human Rakshasa. So this is Paurusheya. So even the Rakshasa for this Aditya is already half-human. We think of Rakshasas as being demons. They are very scary parts of ourselves or things that we project out that will help us to feel scared. And here we have a half-human one. It's already half-human. And it's going to be inspired to achieve its potential of becoming human, which I'm glad that it is because that reminds me to tell you that Rishi Atri is in charge of the law of potential. And this goes really well with the theme of friendship, that we see the potential in everyone around us, that we have the goodwill to help someone knowing that we may never see them again, but someone else who we don't even know yet might help us with something else, that potential that the humans are all around all the time.
And this lovely to say, the potential is there, but we could still not choose it.
Yep. And that will lead us closer to that demonic feeling of the Rakshasa, make things more difficult. So this is the Rakshasa. And next we have the Naga, which is Naga Takshaka for Mitra Aditya. Takshaka Naga has so many good stories. I don't know what we're going to do here, Nadamayi, because they blow out our timeline entirely.
Well, let's first of all talk about what his function is here. What do you think Takshaka's function is?
I don't know that I know what his function is, but I know that his name helps us to know that he's able to cut things and that we may need to, if we want to make the best of our Rakshasa and use our potential, or reach our potential, we might have to cut things. We might have to craft our character, our decisions. So that's one of the things that comes to mind.
Human potential, like what needs to, in order to fulfill our human potential, what do we need to cut out? Literally, cut it out.
I was just going to say it's really interesting because Takshaka is the Naga that we spoke about in Mitra Aditya, who helped Uttanka go into the underworld. I don't think Uttanka really wanted to go, actually, but
we usually don't.
He took Uttanka down there into the underworld. And the first vision that Uttanka sees is the black and white, the weaving of the cloth by these two women, which is Datta and Vidatta, which is do it or don't do it. Like you can only give priority to some things, and whatever you don't give priority to, you're automatically not doing. So it goes very well with what you were just saying about Takshaka is cutting and crafting. That
Every time you make a choice, something is automatically unchosen. So potential is just lying there vibrating.
Yeah.
Then once it's focused and it makes a choice and it's committed, all these other things are automatically unchosen.
Yep. Now, you asked me what his purpose was. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to that? Because I just took a stab in the dark.
It's really beautiful how Takshaka is a facilitator of this growth, but he shows us in these myths how how do I put this? Utanka didn't have to get mad at him, but Utanka was not in touch with his Naga power. He was dissociated from it. He was distancing himself from it. And so he lost that connection. He didn't have and if you don't recall that story, we talked about it a lot in that first episode, that had Utanka presumably was a very good student. We're told he was, because he had completed this time with the guru. The guru was pleased with him. But then we see this story where he seems to fail a lot. He doesn't understand the symbolism that is being shown him. He's given an opportunity to go to the underworld, and he's mad about it. He resents it. So he's using a lot of these negative vibrations. He becomes vengeful to Takshaka, who is simply doing his job. Takshaka didn't go there to offend Utanka, but Utanka took offense. How many times do we take offense and then we miss all the help that we're getting along the way? Utanka was completely supported and helped through that entire experience, but he clung to his lower nature a little bit too much. Not completely. He's not full Rakshasa. He's not full human there, but he's showing that he's out of touch with his inner Naga. And so he's projecting this onto Takshaka, and he keeps attacking Takshaka over and over again in these later iterations of the story, which don't further his spiritual progress. But Takshaka plays that role of saying, okay, he's really Utanka's mirror. Utanka is not friendly with life. He is not open and positive towards the challenges. And so he keeps missing the gifts. He eats the dung that Indra offers him. How do you not know that dung is the nectar of immortality and it saved your life? Then you're out of touch with yourself. You're really out of touch with yourself. And that's where we all are right now at this point, as we're in the rising Dwapara age. If you're using that model, which I certainly do, there's more light shining in now. Many of us are saying, oh my gosh, the problem isn't out there, it's in here. Many of us are doing that introspection. So I'm seeing Takshaka as the real, brutal introspection, where we go in, all this stuff is happening outside, and we say, I'm not going to react to a single thing. First thing I'm going to do is go inside, get in touch with my Takshaka, and start being brutally honest about my relationship with the life principle. And then my Utanka does start understanding the symbolism more, does start seeing where life is trying to help me. Life is showing up in this way and that way all the time that I was taking for granted because I was so busy projecting my negativity, my disconnection out.
Really hitting home for me. I love this story. I love how this has flowed through several of the Aditya stories. I feel like I understand this story better now. I feel, as we said in your introduction, you talked about the women in Mitra Aditya. This is the guru's wife who asks him on this task. The guru has done all the training and the final task is given by the wife, and she knows exactly where he needs to develop, and she sends him off on this.
I hadn't thought about her seeing the weaknesses in this pupil and saying, okay, let's give you one more test. That's very nice. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so it's interesting. But I really hear it before we got on camera, I was talking to Nadamayi about leaving Australia to come to Portugal, that it wasn't my hunger to come to Portugal. I was accompanying my husband. And I'm a bit utanka in my experience of Portugal. Like, people come here and they love it. And for me, I'm eating done.
I know, you're living in paradise. You're living in a place where people all around the world go to experience paradise.
Yeah. Just shout out to my hometown, Paradise, all those people watching as well. Yeah, so if it really hits home there, so beautifully timed. There's more great Takshaka stories. So we've just touched on the top of the layer that linking through to the data stories that we've already covered. But the story goes on and leads in the end to it comes to a culmination with the snake sacrifice. And I just wanted to point that out as well, because when we talked about data, we had the kind of strategies of blending energies. Remember, this was more Ramayana-based stories, and we had Rakshasas blending with Gandharvas. And in this case, we also had a Brahmin blending through marriage with a Naga who was able to create a young soul who turned up to the fire sacrifice and was able to stop it. So this story that we're talking about, Takshaka, culminates with him being on the throne with Indra, being like almost magnetically drawn in.
Takshaka is on Indra's throne because Indra said, I'll keep you safe from that fire sacrifice, because they have this crazy idea. Utanka's got it into his head that the world will be a nice place if they get rid of all the snakes.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how many times have you heard people say, if it hadn't been for that darn snake, we'd still be living in the Garden of Eden? The snake.
I obviously mix in the wrong crowd because I don't hear that very well. But yes, I get the reference.
Anyway, snakes are this primordial image. It's one of the two phobias that are born into the body.
Right up the top.
Right at the top for most people.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm digressing.
Remember, you're digressing. What I thought you were going to say was like war on terror. War on drugs.
If I project everything I hate out there and then have a war on it and fix it out there, it'll fix. And no war on power, no war has ever ended war. Has right. Determine the end. The means determine the end. And when you're out of touch with your Naga principles, with your inner serpentine, with your introspection, how do you know where you are and are not being a hypocrite? We're all hypocrites in some way. Because if we just came through the Kali Yuga, it is the Yuga of trauma. We have to repress that crap so we can survive. It was slowly getting back in touch with these Nagas, into safety and connection, letting them process, digest, and get connected so we can start doing this life cycle thinking and saying, the means determine the end. They can't launch a bomb over there and think that, I'm safe over here, that they're not connected in some way. Bomb consciousness lives in me. I am the bomb.
Yeah.
And the Takshaka in this myth that we were just finishing up on, he's sitting on Indra's throne saying, protect me. They think they're going to kill all the Nagas and make the world a happy place. And they're doing it from a place of negativity, anger. And Utanka is vengeful that he goes into meditation and says, where's that Takshaka? He hasn't been burned in the fire yet. And he is able to see in his spiritual eye that Takshaka is sitting on Indra's throne. So Utanka starts chanting mantras to pull Indra's entire throne into the fire. Is like, what? And you'll have to take it from there. I can't actually remember what happens next.
So this young boy who's bred for it, he's able to diffuse the situation and the sacrifice stops at just the right moment. But I think a couple of really key things for me there are, one, like we can take this all out on Utanka, and I totally understand that. My little Utanka experience here being in Portugal, totally get it. But really remember, this is a mother wound curse from a previous story as well, that the mother of the Nagas asked her children to participate in a bet with her sister that the tail of the horse that came out of the churning of the ocean would have a black tail. And the Nagas are so truthful servants that help us integrate that they didn't like being put in that position of being fraudulent. So the mother cursed them we're talking right at the beginning of the turning of the consciousness of the ocean. You're all going to die. If you don't support me, then you're all going to die. That narcissistic mother thing that maybe some of us have experienced. So this fire had to happen, and Utanka is the vehicle and really helps to make it happen. So I think that's important to keep in mind. But the other thing to keep in mind is also that Utanka thinks, if I get rid of the snakes, then no one is going to have to go into the underworld like I did, because I didn't like that experience of being in there. And I can prevent that by sealing off. Only the Nagas can take us through down into that trauma that you were just talking about. So if I get rid of Nagas, I get rid of trauma. But of course, all that did was plunged us into this age of darkness where we lost that ability to go inside. And so everything became a projection outside. In order to resolve anything, we have to project it onto someone out here.
Yeah.
Them of being the problem and get into an argument or a war or violence with them, create some more trauma, create some more karma, rinse and repeat. Keep going. And that's what we've been doing for a while. But as you said, the rays of dawn are becoming stronger and brighter.
Yeah, we do see that these stories, these curses, one side is saying Utanka didn't use his higher mind to solve these problems. He used his trauma mind to solve these problems, his insecurity, anger mind, the Rakshasa mind. He had the human potential to use his higher mind, his purity of heart mind. It wasn't available to him. But the curse was going to happen either way. So how could that be? How could the curse happen if Utanka was using his purity of heart? Guess what? Somebody else had to work through their insecurity and anger. So somebody else. So that's what I often ask myself is, okay, I'm dealing with a situation. I don't want to use my inner bully. Okay, anger and insecurity, let's just call it what it is. That's bully psychology. Project it out. I don't want to become a bully in this situation. How do I maintain my purity of heart, protect myself, maintain my safety and connection in the material world and in the inner world, the subjective world, and also not become a bully out there as a strategy? Because if we've been bullied, then we want to do it back so that person stops. And how to do that? Dharmically, guess what? Every bully is going to get bullied by life somehow, some way. But I personally, for my own spiritual growth, don't want to be the available conduit. I would rather fulfill my human potential. There are plenty of other people working through their stuff. The life principle will find a way to chase in every Utanka, all of us. But that's just my choice. My introspection is, I don't want to be used to fulfill somebody else's curse. Yeah. I would rather be some conduit for the growth of human potential in myself and others.
Yeah, beautiful. And for me, that's that Vajra thing of staying in whereas Utanka, it got into his somewhere in that power center.
It got stuck down in safety and it's his Muladhara. It is.
Yeah. And he was going to do that. And makes me think about the 100-door story that we didn't cover for Rishi Atri, that Rishi Atri, just to touch on it, was put in this another unwinnable, unsolvable problem, locked in a castle. All of these locked doors is the only way to get out. Hay thrown throughout the castle, lit on fire. The whole place is about to go up. And he just comes to complete stillness because of exactly what you're saying, that I'm not going to participate in someone else's curse. This event is taking place and I'm going to maintain my potential. I'm going to stay in that potential. So many themes are echoing through Mitra Aditya.
Yeah. Friendship with the life principle and the potential of the human being, this opportunity we have.
Yeah. Now, we've managed to talk about 1, 2, 3 out of 6 of the retinue, so we're doing well. I'm going to very briefly touch on the Yaksha, which is the sound of the chariot.
Rathasvana.
This, when I heard the videos, this is my absolute favorite new member. We're not going to give any time to this Yaksha. Other than to say that I love this metaphor of the sound of the chariot as a way to be friends with our nervous system, our inner sound, and that Mitra Aditya is offering us that Vajra image that I love so much of coming inside whatever's going on with Rishi Atri's got the doors and the hay burning in this castle, this palace, coming to that sound that's inside of the nervous system that is such for me, it's such a home to be in while the world is going crazy and everything's going here, there and everywhere. Mitra Aditya is reminding us of what it feels like to be in the chariot that is making the good sounds of just the hum of the wheels along the road.
My personal white noise.
Yeah, exactly. My personal white noise. Yeah. Did you want to say?
Well, and what you'd brought up in one of our previous conversations about this was how that is evocative, though it wasn't said directly. It is so evocative of mantra.
Yes.
That we chant the name of divinity to ourselves as we're working, to the world, or maybe we just hum. Everybody loves humming now because it's becoming demonstrated through the material sciences how valuable humming is at all levels of system, and how, think about it, Om. And into the silence, you are going from the open vowels to the close to the hum and into silence. If that's not a conduit, to the inner calming the self and then connecting to absolute stillness, silence, the one. So that Rathasvana is telling us, I can check in, listen, and say, am I plugged in? Nope, no. I'm a little off. Adjust. Okay, now it's in nicely.
Yeah. Like the tuning fork.
Ding. Like a tuning fork, yeah. And attunement, that's an even better description. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then we get that entrainment thing, don't we, with sound, that if we all hum at more or less the right thing, we're actually going to entrain each other until it's beautiful. We've come to that equanimity. But at the moment, it's hard to entrain with each other because there's just so much noise. So we can all look after our chariot. If you notice there's clunking and clackety sounds in your chariot, it's time to do that inner maintenance. And that those clunky and clackety sounds are probably not going to resolve themselves by just you moving forward. You probably need to stop the chariot, pull over, and do your regular mechanical maintenance of the vehicle.
Chant your ohms first thing in the morning before you go and unleash yourself on the world.
Definitely. And your humming, the humming at your home has attracted some real humming this week.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. What Fiona is referring to is that we had an enormous blessing this week. A bee swarm came to our house. And for those of you who don't know, when a hive of honeybees gets successful, they get too big for one house. So the mother queen bee has a daughter who she says, honey, you stay home with half the hive. I'm going to take the other half and go. And what they'll do is that other half will camp out in a temporary ball of bees. They attach somewhere. And in our case, it attached to the underside of a branch. It looked like a basketball of bees on the underside of a branch of a pine tree that we have. And the neighbors were calling me saying, there are a lot of bees at your house. They are loud. It was so loud. It was rather intimidating. But when I went out there, first my nervous system went, I calmed down. I was like, meet them with a friendly, meet this life. And so I calmed down pretty quickly and went and looked. Ball of bee mass. They're just crawling all over there, inside out. Incredible. So the happy story is that a beekeeper came and successfully relocated them to their new hive.
It's really fascinating. What we're studying with Adityas now is in this structure of the South Indian chart and the Vargas. We've been talking about the Hora, the two opposites that are together in the one chart. And it makes me think about the bees and how that mother says, you guys stay here and you guys come with me. There's obviously some frequency or pheromone or some
like a combination, like they do.
That lets it split in a harmonious way. It's not a war. It's not a, we hate you guys. It's, my frequency is moving. I've got to go, and off they go. Even though they don't know. It's a potential thing. They don't know where they're going and what they're going to find.
And they move the hive from the branch, they move the swarm from the branch down into the temporary box with the frames in it. First of all, we'll go into this because I think it really is good for this Aditya. He had a 5-gallon bucket on the end of a pole. He bolted to the end of a pole and he put it around the hive, and then he bumped it, and a bunch of them dropped in, and he pulled it out, and he poured it like liquid. And they do. It looks like liquid the way they move like that. And he poured it like liquid in there, and then he bumped it again. He went back up and poured it in. Now, they had been there overnight, and so what he explained was that the process was they've got a lot of pheromones on that branch up there. And so there was still a small, but like liquid hanging drip of bees on the branch. But then there was what he poured into the hive down there. And he said, now we watch, because there is a certain maneuver that they will start doing 1, 2, 3 at a time that will tell me if the queen is down here or up there. Now, if the queen's down here, we're off in the right direction. And I cannot remember the name of the move. Naismith maneuver, something maneuver, not a bee person. But so it was a combination of vibration and putting out a pheromone. And the longer we watched, some of them would put their little stinger ends, their butts up in the air, and then fan their wings.
Yep.
And one did it. And then another one did it. And then, so we knew the queen was in the hive. So it's that combination of pheromones and a vibration. So interesting, because we're talking about the hum. And we all know that a honeybee, under ideal circumstances, if it's not one of these super aggressive varieties, a typical honeybee will respond to our vibration. If we come in and we're calm and we're happy, the bees are calm and happy, and you don't get stung. If you come in with your fear, are they going to sting me? They're going to say, yeah, I'm good because you're scaring me. On you. But to go back to the bees, they did that pheromone, they did the vibration for all day, because the scouts were still hanging on the pheromones up in this tree. And it took them all day to finally decide that the whole hive got the message. And by the cool of the evening, they were all in the box in calm. Wow. And he was able to just fit the lid fully on and carry them all together.
Yep.
And that good old Rathasvana vibration in the bees.
Manifest right there.
Yeah, they just made manifest. And then we got the Gandharva, the Gandharva.
Gandharva, exactly. Would you like to say anything about the awakening of the elephant story?
I was just going to even make it shorter than that. Gender's Moksha is an amazing story. You can go and find that. And it's a long stotra that's often sung at funerals. A really beautiful piece of tradition right there. You can look up Gender's Moksha. All I wanted to say really about this is that what a beautifully named Gandharva, that it translates directly into English what it is, and it's Haha. And it's indicating the attitude before we launch our energy into something.
Yeah.
Right? So that the Yaksha that's when their energy is flowing and going. The Gandharva is like the attitude even before we start up the chariot. And make sure before you even begin that you got it all with a really positive launch.
Yeah.
And that's what Haha's about.
Yep. Ha. And you can refer to it as aha, like you're going to be able to solve the problem because you are going to, aha, this is what I've got to do. So this is one way.
Yes.
But also just ha, like a relaxed and friendly, fun-loving attitude towards whatever comes along the road is sometimes a little giggle when you go, oh, this is what we're going to do. It's okay. It puts you in the right mood, doesn't it? And this is laughing yoga, right? This is...
It is. Oh, can I tell you, we're not going to do Gender's moksha, but can I tell you a fun story from my own experience about this, where I used to live in upstate Vermont, and if you ever see anybody pulled over in the winter, you pull over.
Yeah.
Right? So here I was.
The love of friendship, the good Mitra behavior. Yep.
So it was just what you do. And I was coming home one night and I'm alone in my vehicle and I see a car with flashing lights. I pull over and the man who's walking towards the driver's side mirror definitely looks stronger than me. That goes without saying. And he looked scruffier than somebody who took a bath that morning. And I could tell he'd been thrifting because it was like a mechanic's shirt. The spot where the name would be was blank and written in a Sharpie pen. He'd written, or somebody had written, he was wearing it, Satan. Okay? So I have this strong, rough-looking fella walking up to my window with a serious look on his face. And apparently his name is Satan.
And it's nighttime.
And it's nighttime, and I'm alone in my vehicle. And he walks up and I roll down my window and I said, hey, he said, hi. And I said, why, hello, Satan. I've always wanted to meet you. And he just busted up laughing.
Yeah.
And that was one of those moments I was like, I got to set the tone here.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from because but I just did my best to stay in my happy place.
Yeah.
And I got freaked out that Satan had walked up to my window. And he just busted up laughing. And it was great. He got in the car, drove him to the house. He got his friends, and they went and got his truck. It was all fine.
Yeah. Great. Bit of ha Gandharva
That
right
was
there.
ha Gandharva all the way. I know what to say now.
I love that because it does lead into our final retinue member, which is Apsara Menaka. And she's got great stories. So they've all got great stories. This is always a challenge with Mitra Aditya, is how we're going to talk about it so much.
Let me just say before I get into Menaka that we all know that so many of these stories have a double standard, right? Men can be as lust, whatever, and the women are held to a different style. Not Menaka. Her job is to be a lusty lass, and she's rewarded for it. Sometimes she's punished, sometimes she's rewarded, just all depending, but she's using her beauty to further the story and give people challenges, because and every time in any of these stories that we think men are being seduced by women, it's because these, as we all know, the stories were recorded by men. Nowadays, we know you can just reverse the genders. Women can be seduced by men. Also, women can fall prey to their lusty desires and stuff. So the double standard works both ways.
That's the good news.
That's the good news and the bad news.
Okay, interesting. I don't have that impression of Menaka. I don't worry about her being
because you're so
lust. I know that she can be portrayed that way, but really her name means refinement, refined beauty. And that she is the most beautiful Apsara, and she adds that refinement to all situations. I'm a big Apsara fan, and I think Apsaras are about rapport. Seduction is rapport. I'm using NLP language here. As an NLP master, how do you achieve anything that you want? You get into rapport with the person. And then, like the humming, you entrain it in the direction that you want to go. So for me, the Apsaras are NLP masters. They know how to get up or get down, find that point of rapport, and then things flow through them. So, this is my version of, and maybe her famous story that's important for us because it's going to come up in Vishnu Aditya is that Indra sends her off on a bit of a Hail Mary, like an impossible mission. Could you please go wait Vishvamitra, the rishi who was originally a king.
He wasn't Kshatriya first. Yes.
Yeah, who had a whole colorful life of stealing and coveting and eating inappropriate things, you name it.
Very Rajasic, very Tamasic.
Exactly. Just like all of us, right? So this is the guy. But he has this, Mitra Aditya we're going to get to is all about transformation. He's demonstrating transformation because actually through all of these trials, he does his tapas. He sees what's possible and he becomes this powerful rishi. And he's very close to achieving that Maharishi status. And Indra's got his feeler, he's got his spider senses out and can tell that, whoa, this is going to be a very powerful person. And I guess what I'm picking up in these stories as I learn more about the Adityas is that the kings and the rishis, the kings can feel threatened if they sense that the rishis are becoming more and more powerful.
You mean the Devas, the king of the Devas?
So they like to just go in there and poke some of these rishis and see if they can get them to tumble down.
Because they will become more powerful than the Devas. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So this is the mission he gives to Menaka. And she is like, what? I can't go do that. This guy is so spiritually powerful. He'll probably have that moment like we were talking about this week of when Shiva opens his eyes and burns Kamadeva like in an instant into ashes. She's like, you're sending me off on basically it's an impossible task. But this is Mitra. If the sun is asking me to do something, there must be a way to do it. So she flies down.
And he sends the Maruts as the winds. Remember, we met the Maruts earlier and Indra had cut them up into little pieces in the womb of Ditya because they were supposed to destroy him. But they had so much spiritual power, they didn't die. They just became multiple and they became friends with Indra and they became the winds.
I'm so glad you brought that up because, she heads down to the mortal plane to go try to distract this great rishi who's in the middle of some enormous tapas. He's in complete concentration and she doesn't know what she's going to do. And as Nadamayi has just reminded us, Indra sends the Maruts. Is this right? To help. So this is why you're saying about playing both sides, that he's helping out here, having caused problems with the Maruts before. Just as she gets towards the hermitage where Vishvamitra is in profound meditation, concentration, whatever it is, she still doesn't quite know what she's going to do. And this strong gusts of wind start blowing. And this is an air sign, remember? So it's the vayu of the air coming so strong that her whole garment is blown off her body and she's chasing after it. Now she's landed on earth. She's chasing after this flimsy garment. It's blowing in the wind, unaware that she's landed right in front of the rishi who at that exact moment opens his eyes and is completely distracted by her refined beauty, completely naked. She's not doing anything. She's not laying on some kind of seduction scene. She's just trying to
pretty pause. The version that I studied, she was dancing. And we were part of her dance. And it was very deliberate. And it was just a little at a time. It was like a kind of...
It was like the seven veils.
And both versions are very seductive.
Yes, exactly. Either the on purpose seven veils or the catching someone, watching them when they don't realize and them just being natural. But I think one of the things that I take about Apsara, Menaka is the intelligence of solving problems as we go.
Yeah.
Learning as we go. I don't really know how to solve this problem, but I know the first step might be this or it might be that. And you just try that first step. You don't really know the whole strategy yet, but you try something. And through trying it, you learn something and then you refine it, her natural refined beauty, and then you get closer and closer to the solution to the problem. So for me, Mitra Aditya, this Apsara is that inspiration that sometimes you won't know what to do to solve the problem, but you might know what the first step is. And we can trust Mitra's intuition, trust Mitra's process that we'll work it out. With this Apsara, we're going to find a way to solve the problem, even if we didn't know when we started what that solution will be.
Sometimes the learning is the doing, most often it's some combination thereof. And yeah, she is definitely the experiential learner here.
Yeah. Which is a very beautiful association with Mercury, what you just said, the experiential learner.
Mm.
And the Maruts coming all the way from Amshu is much more that spiritual, learning your scriptures and the knowledge that's already encoded. So a lovely combination between the Jupiter type of learning and the Mercury type of learning.
Yeah, you can't always be the philosopher. You've got to have you do have to have life in the externalized realm, but if it's not guided by the highest thinking, then it can get dark fast.
Yep. But this is not the end of her stories. She's got great other stories. So got to go and check out Learning About the Adityas through Ernst Wilhelm.
A very important mother. She's a very important mother.
Exactly. We just can't cover everything. It's just too many amazing stories for Mitra Aditya. Let's wrap up our conversation, Nadamayi, by talking about the healing potential of these stories. What, of all of them, is there any one that stands out as an application around working with people that could be very guiding or inspiring story? What would be your favorite?
To pick one of them, they all work together so well. But I would say Atri's stories and his wife, they're really demonstrative of all of it.
Yeah.
They're really about how do I use my human potential? How do I live a life that makes my human potential available to me so that I can use it? And then the more I use it, the better I get at it and the more available it is to me. And so that becomes a positive feedback loop, a positive reciprocity into a virtuous cycle. And Atri's stories and his wife's demonstrate that. Anasūya's story.
Yeah. Great. I think there's a lot of application here in Mitra around our friendly attitude towards life and solving problems. And this is a real asset that Mercury has in astrology in your birth chart, and it gets starved by the moon. And that's where Mercury gets problems in a birth chart, and then we take problems personally. We get into that story, the narrative, why is this happening to me and I didn't deserve this and it's not happening to anyone else. And it just makes it actually harder because we still got to solve the problem in the first place. So the Vaj metaphor of staying in that space and knowing that this is where it's effective. The rubber is hitting the road. So lots to take away. And I really liked what you said about how powerfully pure the women are in Mitra, because we've got Anasūyā, the wife. We just heard about Apsara, Menaka. We heard about the guru's wife who sent Uttanka off on this journey. We didn't get to talk about in the Naga stories, Takshaka takes another human woman down into the underworld. Bhattika. And she remains pure as well. And it's her purity that kind of teaches the Nagas a bit of a lesson. And Takshaka has to become human based on his treatment there. So the inspirational female stories in Mitra I'm going to take away as well. Thank you so much for being with us, Nadamayi. Thanks everybody who's hung around, and we'll be back to talk about Varuna next.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.